Hello, I'm Kate. Welcome to the Hawthorn Cottagecraft Podcast. Today is Thursday the 26th of October and this is episode 17. You can find me on Instagram as Kate_Hawthorncottagecraft, on Ravelry as ARunnerBean. We have a Ravelry Group, which is the Hawthorn Cottagecraft Podcast, and I do have a shop which is closed at the moment on Etsy called Hawthorn Cottagecraft. You're very welcome if you're tuning in for the first time. It's lovely to see you and I hope you enjoy your visit here. And if you're a returning viewer, welcome back. It's lovely to see you again. If you are new, you will not realise that this isn't my normal backdrop. If you're a returning viewer, you'll know that I've moved slightly. I've actually moved across the ocean. I am sitting in Ottawa. So today, this is very, very unusual. I thought I would start my podcast in Ottawa. It will probably be completed when I go back home tomorrow night and get finished up in the next few days. Today is all about Rhinebeck. So if you're not interested in Rhinebeck recaps, and I know there's so many videos out there about Rhinebeck at the moment, if you're not interested and would want to watch an ordinary podcast episode, feel free to go back and watch some earlier ones. But this will be predominantly Rhinebeck. I came here last Tuesday, so just over a week ago, and there was a little bit of concern about whether I actually would get. Ireland decided to host its first hurricane, or first in a very, very long time, and there was a little bit of concern on the Monday the 16th whether I actually would be able to fly out on Tuesday the 17th because the country came to a standstill with Hurricane Ophelia. But I was very, very fortunate and did get out very smoothly and without any issue or hitch, which was fabulous. So I came to Ottawa last Tuesday night, and all I can say is that this trip has been a ball. I have had such a good time. I can't begin to tell you how special it has been and how special it has been to meet everyone. I will go more into the Rhinebeck adventure slightly later on, but I wanted to talk a wee bit at the start just about the projects that I had brought with me. I had told you before I left that I had a few projects that I wanted, or two that I wanted to work on while I was here. And what's very strange is that although I've come all this way for a knitting event and I'm spending all my time with knitters, I've done very little. I haven't actually done that much. Today I'm hoping actually to sit and relax and knit a little bit because I'm getting ready for home tomorrow and I've all my sightseeing things done. But I brought two projects with me. I brought a sock project on the plane, and before I left I'd also told you that I had sewing projects done, but I couldn't show you, and that's because I had made a bag for myself and I made a bag for the group of girls that I was travelling to Rhinebeck with. So my socks are housed in my little Rhinebeck sock bag. And my friend Kira, who is Emerald Fibres, did the embroidery for me. And then I put on the sheepy and made the bag. And you can also see that it is now housing my collection of pins that I collected over the weekend at Rhinebeck from all the different podcasters that I met. So, my sock is living in this bag. And I started this, I'd cast it on just before I left because I wanted the ribbing done before I got on the plane. And I worked on my sock on the plane, on the journey over. I'm knitting my sock out of Ninja Chicken sock blank, the one that I showed you earlier, in earlier podcasts. And I love this, I just love the pattern. So I had started it and I've done a little bit, but not a great amount. This is how far I've got. I am knitting the Rhinebeck is Calling sock by the Crazy Sock Lady, and I met her when I was at Rhinebeck, And this is how far I've got. And I love the pattern. I can now beginning to see the pattern. And it'll be beautiful when it's blocked. It's very simple, but very effective. So it was a 64 stitch cast on my 2.5mm knit picks needles, Caspians. And I think I might start to work on the heel very soon. I don't want them to be particularly long socks. So I'll start to put the heel in, and I think with this particular sock, I'll do the heel flap and gusset. I have been wearing for the first time really my socks that had the Fish Lips Kiss and the Afterthought heel, and I've really enjoyed wearing them, particularly the Afterthought heel. It has been very comfortable. But for this particular sock, I think it'll be really pretty with the heel flap and gusset in it. So I'm really, really pleased with the progress of this. And I think the colours from the sock blank are really popping and coming up, and just really calming colours, and I think they'll be really pretty socks. So I've been working on that, and as I say, I worked at it on the flight. I had planned to knit on the road trip from Ottawa to Rhinebeck, and I did for about an hour or two on the road down, but there was just too much to see. The scenery was stunning, fall colours in the mountains. To an extent, the scenery reminded me of Ireland. It was quite rural, but it was just the expanse of it. There was just so much more of it, and it was just seas of forests and colours and greens and yellows, although there were patches where I think were quite far advanced, and there were patches where the leaves had fallen, but on the whole it was just stunning countryside, and there will be photographs of that at the end. So I didn't actually get any real car knitting done on the way down, and I did absolutely none on the way back. But this is the project I've probably put most work into. And this is the Road to Rhinebeck shawl by Mina Phillip, and I'm actually in the middle of a row, which isn't particularly good. But this was a mystery knit along in September, and I had bought the pattern, or bought the knit along into that, but I'd kept the pattern. I hadn't started it because I wanted it to be for this trip, and it's a really beautifully textured pattern and a very simple pattern. So I'm in the third section now, the third clue. So I'm back onto this colour. The yarn I am using is Fine Fish yarns. Terry dyed up these colourways for me for going. So this is her Butterball, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. And it's a beautiful yellow colour. And this is Acorn. And this is her double knitting. And they are just beautiful together. And they really, really capture the colours that I have seen so far on the trip. So I'm really, really pleased with this. I'm again knitting this on wooden needles. I want to be able to knit this on the plain. So I'm knitting it on my Knit Pro Symphonies. And I can't remember, I think it's 4.5s. Can't remember off the top of my head. And of course, Knit Pro, it wears off. But they're 4.5s. I'll put it all in the show notes. Everything will be linked in the show notes in the Ravelry group. So that's coming along really nicely. I'm hoping to get a lovely section of that done today and then work on it a bit on the plane tomorrow. I'm hoping to sleep on the plane home. It's an overnight flight, red-eye flight. So I'm really, really hoping to get some sleep, but I don't normally sleep on the plane. So this is what I'm hoping to work at on it tomorrow. So by the power of magic and Air Canada, I'm back in my own little corner. Today is Wednesday, the 1st of November, and this is the first time I've really had the opportunity to sit down to do this. I had planned to record again on Monday past, once I'd got over the jet lag and the sleep, which hasn't been too bad to be fair. I planned to record but then I felt the need to go and see my parents for a couple of days. So here I am, a few days later than I had planned. And one of the reasons actually probably that I hadn't done it as well is because I really don't know where to start. I have so much I want to tell you, and I have so much stuff to show you, all beautiful stuff, beautiful stash. And I actually don't know where to start, and I wasn't quite sure how to format this, but do you know what? I'm just going to chat about it. I've got my cuppa, and look what I got. I have my Remembrance Pottery sweater weather mug. So I have my coffee in this, and I'm all set up. So hopefully you've got your cuppa and settle in for quite a long one, I think, so that I can recap and tell you all about my trip. I really don't know where to start. I think I'm just going to go through it as it happened, because that's just about the easiest way to do it. As I told you in the last little snip, there was a bit of concern about whether I would get, but the Tuesday morning showed up beautiful. It was calm, really quiet bus journey to Dublin. It's about 2 hours from Belfast to Dublin on the bus, so it's really quite handy. And it was an early start. I think I was up at about 4:45 in the morning at the bus station and left at about 6 o'clock. Had no issues at all really travelling. First solo trip, and it went really well. I only had one little hitch getting there, and that was just because of a short connection time in Toronto. And I would advise anybody going through Toronto Airport to make sure you've got considerable connection time, because by the time I got through customs and by the time I got through security again, I had to really run for my flight to find that the gate had just closed. The plane was sitting there, but the door had just closed and they wouldn't let me on. But they very kindly put me straight on to the next flight. And particularly for a flight like that, it was like buses. One plane went out and the next one came in. So I was an hour behind time. That was it. So it was a really smooth flight. I cannot fault Air Canada. They were very, very pleasant and no problem trip. So the first solo flight went well, and I was so excited to see Selma from Little Big Knits. Selma was hosting me for the next 10 days, and she was at the airport to meet me, and it was just so lovely to meet up again. So for a couple of days I had a little time around Ottawa, which, if you have never been, is a beautiful, beautiful city. Selma was working, so I again was brave and tackled the bus system and went into Ottawa and did some sightseeing, and I'll insert photographs as we go along here of my sightseeing trip in Ottawa. I went to see Parliament Hill and I saw the famous Canada 150 sign. I wandered round. I ate beaver tail, which I think shocked a few people, but it's just a really pretty, beautiful, tasty pastry. No beavers were harmed in the making of the beaver tails, and it was really tasty. And I just had fun exploring and sightseeing on my own. I also had a list of requests from the family of things that they would like brought back, so I did a little bit of that shopping as well. I like getting that out of the way at the start so I can concentrate on everything else. So I did a little bit of that, and I also, to show some of my haul already, before I even really got started when I was away, I had ordered a few things that were delivered to Selma's, and one of them was the mug, and I just want to show you the other couple of things that I had ordered. There's one skein of yarn that I had ordered that I can't show you because as soon as I got home, Peter squirreled that away. He's given that to me for Christmas. He's got plans and ideas, so he's taken that away, and I'll show you it after Christmas. But there were a few things, some of them you might have guessed because I'd talked about them before I went away. One of them was my Luka, I'm trying to get this right, I call it Luka Needles, and those had arrived, and I really haven't looked at them very much. As you can see, that the cover sleeve is still on them. I will now take that off. They are beautiful. I have had one wee look. So I have got my interchangeable set, and I'm really looking forward to using these. One of the projects that I shop for will be the first project that these get used on. So really, really pleased. There's the tips and the cables, the stoppers, a lot of stoppers, no issue there, and some of the extenders and the cable, the locks, the keys. So it's a beautiful set. I love the brushed kind of denim look, and it's just a really nice tactile case. So I'm looking forward to trying those out, and I'll tell you as I use them what I think about them. I'll give you a little bit of a review, but I'm looking forward to using those. So those were sitting waiting for me in Selma's. I think there was a little corner of her house that had my name on it. There's going to be a pile around me at the end of this. I had also ordered, I had got one of these for Selma as a hostess gift, I suppose. And I've had Madder Root bags in my basket on their website so many times, but you know the issue, international postage and then customs charges here. I had never bought one, so I bit the bullet and I got this beautiful Madder Root bag. Their trundle bag. This is their small trundle, I think. I saw they had a stand in Rhinebeck and they had some of their large bags and they were beautiful. Pricey, but very, very beautiful, and they are so well made. I'm really looking forward to using this. There's an internal pocket, and it's just really nicely finished, and I like there's no zipper or poppers, but there's just a clasp at the top, which I can't now get in. There we go. And it'll be a really nice bag to carry. So I'm really pleased with that. That's something I have had on my wish list for a very, very long time. So I was really chuffed to get that. And I got I think it's Bockhow you pronounce it? Bockhow bag. This is beautiful. It's a handbag, I suppose, but so many knitters now use it as a knitting bag. And I probably will use it for that as well. Oh, just trying to tie it to give it shape. Everything has just literally come out of bags today. So I have my Bockhow bag and a little pouch. So that was waiting for me too. So I'm really, really pleased to get those. And now that I've shown them to you, I can actually get them into use. I've wanted to save everything and keep it. And this was something, again, had been on my list, and I kept it for the trip. So those were waiting for me when I got there. The other thing I also discovered is the legend that has become David's tea. David's tea has become such a phenomenon, I think, around the internet possibly mainly through knitters. And very inconveniently, there was one at the bottom of the street, of Selma Street, which meant that I was in it quite frequently. You know, it's concerning when the staff get to know you very, very quickly and can start to ask about your daily life, and you've really only just arrived in Canada. And I was able to tell them all about Rhinebeck when I got back because they knew I was going. So I had picked up quite a lot of tea actually, and cups, and I did get, and it will appear, I don't have it in with me, the colour changing sheep mug that everybody seems to have, and a little pouch. There were none of these on display in the shop, and I asked, do you have any of those sheep pouches? And he brought out a box of them, and I noticed when I was leaving he had put them on display. So it's a little pouch that I will use as a notions pouch, and it came full of tea. So I've a very strong supply of David's tea in the house that I'm enjoying, and as I said, I got the mug as well. So those things were all sitting waiting for me, and I acquired in the first couple of days. But Friday appeared and the excitement levels were extremely high as Rhinebeck started to call. Selma and I were travelling with Holly, the Holly as she became known over the weekend. Holly doesn't podcast, but she is mentioned quite a lot on Selma's podcast, and she's also mentioned on the Two Tangled Skeins podcast. And somebody said to her, oh, you're the Holly. So the Holly was our very gracious driver over the weekend, and she picked Selma and I up quite early on Friday morning. I think it was about 7:15. And we were making the road trip down to Phoenicia, where we were staying in New York. The trip was wonderful. I had thought I would knit on the journey down, but I really didn't. I knit for an hour, maybe, until I got to the border, I think. Because just there was too much to see, and I did not want to miss one piece of it. I was a bit nervous about crossing the border. Everybody had given me horror stories about being delayed and issues at the border. We didn't, obviously, because of me and having to check my visa. We were pulled aside, but we were very quick and there was no issue at all. They were very polite, and we were on our way, I would say, within 20-25 minutes, half an hour at the most. So no delays at the border, and we drove down, and the scenery was stunning, and I will put in a little bit of footage here. We stopped once for lunch and many times for photographs. Holly was very accommodating and stopped to let us take photographs. And we arrived in Phoenicia, I think, at mid-afternoon. The Two Tangled Skeins, who are Sue and Lynn, have a standing reservation in some cabins in Phoenicia. And because the group size had got slightly larger this year, Selma and I got accommodation in the Phoenicia Lodge, which was just across the street from the cabins. But there was quite a group of us there. There was Selma, myself, Holly, Sue and Lynn from the Two Tangled Skeins podcast. Hi ladies. And there was Elizabeth, who was travelling with them. Hello Elizabeth. And in another cabin beside them, Jessica from Sarah Nova Crafts, Jane from the Uncreative Crafter podcast, and Sarah from the Canadian Knitter, and Marcia, who is very little. They were sharing a cabin next door to us. So we were all, most of us met there in the afternoon. We met a few of them later on. And we got settled in there before we headed off to India Untangled, one of the pre-Rhinebeck shows. We weren't there in time for Needles Up, which sounds amazing, and certainly if and when I'm back again, I would like to try Needles Up. But we went to Indie Untangled in Kingston in New York. And Kingston's about 20 minutes maybe from Rhinebeck. And the Indie Untangled event was held in a hotel there, the Best Western. I'm not quite sure how to describe Indie Untangled. It was an amazing event and I was very excited. They had a wonderful range of vendors there, and I had two in particular I wanted to see, and I'll tell you about those in a moment. But the rest of the vendors were superb as well. I was trying to ration my funds so that I bought a little bit of Indie Untangled and I wanted to keep the main money for Rhinebeck. But I wanted to see round the other vendors. But that really wasn't possible. It has become almost a victim of its own success. Indie Untangled, as I said, is an amazing event. It's an amazing showcase of very, very talented dyers. But because it has become so successful, the venue hasn't changed as far as I'm aware. It's the same venue, has been. But the crowd numbers have increased. And it was like sardines. There was a very long queue to get in, which you expect. But when you got in, you almost had to shuffle sideways through the crowds. It was difficult to get into any of the stalls, and I really didn't get into very many of them. By the time I got to the last one, which I knew was one of the popular ones, there was so little left. That was fine, but it was just getting from one point to the next was difficult. There were so many crowds. But in saying that, it was amazing. I saw so many people. I loved meeting everyone. Thank you to everybody who came up to say hello. I got to spot people that I have admired. I met the Grocery Girls. I met Melissa, Spicy Homemaker. And I saw people that I have watched and admired. And it was really interesting and exciting to meet those people. But it was crazy. There was no time to stop really and speak to anyone because you just had to keep moving in the flow. And saying that, I had a great time at it, and I got to do the two vendors that I desperately wanted to see. And the very first one of those was Tuscan Knits. I have admired Maria's colourways. I love them, and postage has always put me off shopping because I could clear her shop. I love her colourways. So that was, for me, the first place I wanted to go to, and she was the first stall as I went in the door, and I made a beeline. And it was lovely to meet Maria. She is such a gentle, pleasant person to meet, and I got some of her yarn. I showed you in the last episode a little notebook that I had created with projects, and the first project in that was the Victoria sweater from the Refined Knits book, and it's a fingering weight sweater, and it was the first sweater I shopped for, and this is the yarn I got for it, and the colour really isn't going to show up, I think. Oh, it might. It is her colourway Witchwood, and it's her Bracken base, which is 75 blue-faced percent superwash, blue-faced Leicester, and 25% nylon. And it's a substantial skein of yarn. It's 460 yards. And the colours are greens. I think there's a bit of lilac-y blue in there. There's browns. And I think this is going to make an absolutely gorgeous sweater. So I got two of those should, I hope, make the sweater. I will adjust the sleeve length to fit what I have got. But her yarns are just gorgeous. If you haven't looked, check her out. Every vendor I talk about, anybody I talk about, I'll link it all in the show notes and give you a list there. But Maria's yarn is gorgeous. So that was the first stall vendor that I met. And I'm sure all of you are aware on social media of the trauma that Maria had after it, where a lot of her sales hadn't gone through, and I will thank you now for everyone who rallied round and supported Maria after that. I think she's got most of her money back. The sales and on the card machine hadn't gone through. So knitters are wonderful people, and we've all rallied round, and I think she has recouped most of the sales that hadn't gone through. Her yarn, if you haven't gone, go and have a look. I shuffled my way around the rest of the event. It was so hot. Thankfully I had changed into, it was a knitted t-shirt that I brought with me, because you certainly weren't going to wear a sweater in that event. Shuffled around, met everybody, chatted, took photographs, and eventually I got to the other vendor that I had wanted to see there, and no surprise there, it was Villenvine. I wanted to see Kristen's yarn. By the time I got there might have been a dozen skeins left, maybe. She is so popular, and I think they just sailed off the stands. But thankfully there was a green skein left. Green's the colour I just get drawn to every time, and this is her Venus Flytrap colourway, and it's beautiful. It's her blitzed base, which is superwash merino, nylon and gold stellina, and I am hoping that these will become possibly a pair of Christmas socks. I just love the gold sparkle. It's her Venus Flytrap. So it was well worth getting round to her. As I said, there was very, very little left, but this would have been a colourway I would have gone for anyway, thankfully. And just, there were so many other stalls there. Hugh Loco was there. It was chaos around her stall. It was very popular. The grocery girls were there, and I think that just drew in the crowds. And I didn't actually purchase any Hugh Loco there, although I have pre-ordered one of her kits for a Helen Stewart shawl. I think the shawl's called Surprise Party, and the kit is I Can't Even, in honour of the grocery girls. So I have pre-ordered one of those, because there was just no way I was going to be able to reach in. If you were tall, you could maybe reach over, but being short like me, I couldn't get in. So I saw Hugh Loco, and I saw there were so many stalls there that I would have loved to have got in, but I just couldn't get near. And because of that, we didn't stay very long. Before we left, though, I did meet Laura Nelkin, and you followed my sweater journey for Rhinebeck, and I had knit Laura's artichoke French sweater. Now, I wasn't wearing it that night. I was going to wear it to Rhinebeck the following day, and I agreed to meet up with Laura the following day to get photographs taken, but I did meet her at Indie Untangled, and she very kindly gifted me one of her little jewellery sets, and it's to make a bracelet, and it has the yarn and all the beads to make this bracelet. So Laura very kindly gave me that. And I've never made jewellery or knitted jewellery, so I'm looking forward to trying that out. And it was lovely to meet Laura, and I also met Laurie, who's Intuit Knit, and Laurie and I had met in Edinburgh, and it was lovely to see her again. And Laurie very kindly gifted me, in this pile somewhere, some ribbon and buttons, and I thought I had them beside me, but oh, I do. So she's the Intuit Knit Podcast, and she gifted me some beautiful ribbon that I can put inside another garment, and it has the maple leaf on it for Canada. Laurie is Canadian, she's from Toronto, and some beautiful silvery grey buttons. So those will go in a very special project. And she gave me a beautiful pottery beaker from a community that her son is involved with. And I've already commandeered this. This is a wine mug in my house. So it's gorgeous, and she knows my love of pottery. So it was just lovely to see Laurie again, and we met up again on Saturday. There was a bit of an Edinburgh reunion on the Saturday. So that was really indie Untangled, and after the event, a group of us went out for dinner to a pub in Kingston called The Anchor, and we had some lovely food there, and then headed back to the cabins for the night and sat and chatted for a little while there. So that was the end of day one, and I will insert some more photographs of the event here. Day two, the Saturday, was Rhinebeck, and I was really excited. The tradition with the group of ladies I was staying with is to go to the Phoenicia Diner, close by to the cabins, and that's where we started with breakfast. And I'm really glad that I had a fairly substantial breakfast there, because it was really the only thing I ate until late afternoon, because there was just so much to do once I got to Rhinebeck. And driving again to it, and the scenery and the excitement, and seeing the car starting to queue up to get in, which actually was quite easy to get in. There was no real delay. Just the excitement levels grew. We were all kitted out in our woolies, and I had my artichoke French sweater on, but I knew that was going to be very short-lived. The weather over the weekend at Rhinebeck was, I think, unseasonably warm for Rhinebeck. It was very warm for me. I think it hit about 24 degrees Celsius, and that's probably one of the warmest days I've experienced this year. So the sweater stayed on, and I kept it on for an hour or two. I think it was just before lunchtime I had to take it off because I was starting to melt. And I'm a pale Irish girl, so the sunscreen was on, and I think it was quite an unusual experience for Rhinebeck. But we queued to get in, and really the emphasis on Saturday was people and meeting people. And the excitement was palpable when you walked in. It was the crowds. There was just a real buzz. Everybody, the excitement was feeding off. I watched Mina, the knitting expat, her vlog after the event. And I think she quite well summed up my experience. She said she's neither introvert nor extrovert. And I suppose that's me. I like my own space. There are times when I do need to retreat and have my own time. But I do enjoy social gatherings like this every so often. I feed on the excitement, and it just really boosts my spirits and my morale, and I don't think I have, well, I can't say I've never been happier, because there are many occasions where I've been very, very happy. But you know what I mean? It just was the most amazing experience. The excitement fed every part of my soul. It just did. It's so hard to describe. I spent 10 days in total away from home, and I don't think I met one stranger. I felt so at home, and particularly in Rhinebeck. Everyone was just so kind and so friendly and so welcoming. It's hard, it really is hard to put into words how I felt about meeting everyone that day. Holly and I wandered around for a while. I had gone to pick up my swag, my souvenirs. I got the hoodie and I got the tote bag for this year's festival. So apart from doing that, and we did do a quick wander around the vendors, and there were huge amounts. The emphasis of the Saturday was not the shopping, or even in particular the yarn. It was really about meeting people. I cannot thank people enough for coming over to me and introducing themselves. Holly actually became my PR, and I couldn't have done without her, actually, because I felt a bit awkward and almost slightly embarrassed handing out the pins of the podcast, and Holly would give me a wee dunt on the elbow and say, right, get them a pin. So she was my PR and helped me out, and she was my photographer. She took all the photographs. But I can't thank you enough for coming up to say hello. It made my day. In comparison to some of these huge podcasts, I'm quite small fry, and I was tickled pink. So that was lovely, and then I got to meet other people as well, and got photographs taken, and it was lovely to meet Jenny and Devon. I've admired their podcast and their work for a long time. I can't really mention everybody because I'm going to leave someone out, and I really don't want to leave anybody out or offend anyone, because I enjoyed meeting each and every one of you. It was phenomenal. The experience on the hill it's hard to describe. There was just a buzz. I saw lots and lots of people. I did see Mina in the distance, but she was surrounded, and I thought, I'm not even going to try. But I just got to meet so many people. Lots of gifts. Thank you so much for people who gave me gifts. I got chocolate. I got some yarn. I got this one from Quilt Knit 17. So thank you very much. And I got this lovely little mini from a new dyer called Colour Wheel Yarns. And this is Lucky Pants, so it's very appropriate for an Irish girl. And her name is Lauren, and all her details are there. And again, I'll link even this in the show notes. I got chocolate. I got to meet Amber from Maker's Haven. And I had on my Rhinebeck socks, and she had designed the cuff of my Rhinebeck socks, so I've got a lovely little stitch marker. I got a stitch marker from Barbara, who is Divas, and she has the Flame and Fibre podcast. Got a stitch marker from her. And I got lots of chocolate, and I got, this is from Lisa Knits, and Amy, thank you so much for the chocolate for my children. They haven't shared it. I think one bar is completely gone. They haven't shared it. If I see the other bar with a little bit left, I might have to just share it myself. But thank you so much for thinking of my children. And it just, meeting everyone was unbelievable. Thank you so much. Thank you so much just for the experience. Thank you. That's all I can say is thank you. The only shopping I did on the Saturday, I bought one skein of yarn. we did go for a little wander, and I went to Into the World, and I got this beautiful, beautiful yarn. It is the cat's pyjamas, and it's superwash merino nylon. Her hand painted, I can't pronounce that, Pakoku sock. Anyway, it's beautiful, and that will eventually, it will probably become socks. It may actually become a shawl. I'm not sure. So that was one skein I bought, and I bought a book. You will see from the next, from some of the later purchases why I bought the book. But I've wanted this book because there's one pattern in it that I need, but I like everything else in it as well. So I got the by hand book when I saw it. So that really, I think, was my purchases on the Saturday. I did do what I had intended. My whole, as I said in the preparation episode, the reason I was going to Rhinebeck was for an apple cider donut. And sure enough, we queued up, and I think by the time we got to the queue, it was late afternoon, and we only had to wait for 45 minutes. But the queue for the apple cider donuts just went all the way down the hill. But they were worth it. And we got our donuts, and we got to sit and talk to Jan and Willie, who is Knit Diva, and Jan Clay, and there's a number. I'll put it on the screen. And we had such a fabulous time with those ladies. Hello ladies, you made my day. It was just so much fun talking to you. I really wish we had got longer to talk. That's my only, and it's not a fault, it is what it is, because of the just intensity of it, and there are so many people, you really don't get any prolonged conversations with anybody, and there are so many people that I met that day that I would really love to have spent more time with. But I had some time with these ladies as we ate our apple cider donuts, and that was a lot of fun. They were worth it. They were worth the travel across the Atlantic just to get those. We left just after that. One of our party wasn't feeling particularly well, and we decided to go back to the cabin. The day was practically over anyway. And rather than go out for dinner that night, we bought dinner at Rhinebeck and brought it home with us to the cabin. And that was kind of one of the other foods that I had heard about that was great at Rhinebeck, was the falafel. And we brought some falafel home and enjoyed that at the cabin. A glass of wine and some knitting. The rest of the group came back, and we just sat and chatted and knit, and it was just a really lovely way to finish out the evening.
Quite the picture. Yeah. Wonder how that one without sticking grass in her mouth.
That's the way out going.
It's really beautiful. Yeah. Here, ladies, can you stand there and I'll take a picture of you? All right. And you can process it in a way that becomes less itchy.
So Sunday, we were heading back to Rhinebeck, went to the Phoenicia Diner again for breakfast, got stocked up on some nice food there. Unfortunately, Selma wasn't well. A tummy bug seems to have gone round a lot of people from Rhinebeck. I've heard of a number of people now who seem to have caught the bug, and there was a bit of concern that it would keep going round, particularly the group that we were staying with, but it seems to have stopped with poor Selma. Unfortunately, Selma couldn't come with us, so Holly and I trotted on and arrived there. I don't know, must have been after 10. It was just after 10, just after it had opened again, and it was another beautiful day. On the Sunday, I wore my braid hills. I had it on for quite a while, but it was another warm day, and I did get a photograph which I will insert here, wearing the braid hills and my hat and my cowl, because I had to get a photograph taken in all the knitwear. But it didn't stay on particularly long. It had to come off. It was, particularly the hat and the cowl, it was another warm day. And it was a different feel for a day. It was another wonderful day. Rhinebeck, between Saturday and Sunday, the atmosphere changes, not for the worse. It's another lovely atmosphere, but it doesn't have the same frantic buzz, that big general buzzy excitement. It's a much calmer day. It's a day where I think people still talk to each other and will meet, and but it's more of a shopping day. It's a day that everybody thinks, right, well, this is the day I'm going to shop. There were a number of people who shopped on the Saturday and were prepared to brave the queues. The Sunday was a much different feel. It was much calmer and quieter, and people had time to wander around. And again, I ran into a few people that I'd met on the Saturday. Hello Nathan, who is Sockmatician. I couldn't believe it. We had been in touch before we left and said, do you think in all the craziness and the huge crowds we'll see each other? And we met each other twice. I saw him on Saturday and had a chat with him, and again I saw him on Sunday, and it was lovely to meet up with him. And I saw Ramona again. Hello Ramona. And it was lovely to meet up with them again. But Sunday was very much all about pottering about and checking out the vendors. I had again my list, and then looking in and out of some other ones. So all my I actually have stash photographs, and I'll stick them at the end, that I'd put up on Instagram, because there's other things that I'm not going to talk about. I got a beautiful print, and other little bits and pieces. I'm going to just tell you about the yarn. And the first place that I hit on the Sunday was Green Mountain Spinnery. And the reason I had bought this book by hand was because a group of ladies and I are doing a knit along together, and this was in my little book. We're doing a knit along together because we're all going to Edinburgh, and we are doing an Edinburgh sweater, and this is the sweater we're going to do. It's a fern and feather, and it's a colourwork sweater, and it's by Jenny Steingass. Now Jenny, I think, was at Rhinebeck. So this was my main sweater purchase that I wanted to make at Rhinebeck, and I had looked briefly on the Saturday, just scanned round to get some ideas. But on the Sunday morning we went to Green Mountain Spinnery. I now have a collection of tote bags. I will never ever ever need another tote bag. That's not to say I won't get one, but I will never ever need another one. So this is Green Mountain Spinnery, and their yarn was just delicious. It was natural, it was sheepy, it was the most gorgeous smell. There was a lot of sniffing done, but I picked out my sweater, and I've gone for a natural colour. Now, they call it grey, I would call it oatmeal. So this will be the main body of the sweater. And it is worsted weight. It's 100% wool, produced in Maine. And there's 250 yards, 228 metres per 100 grams. So this will be the main body of the sweater. And 4 of those. And this will be the colour work. And this is Chestnut 8575 is the colourway. And again, it's 100% American wool. So I knit my Rhinebeck knitwear in my Edinburgh yarn that I bought at EYF. And I'm now going to knit my Edinburgh sweater in my Rhinebeck yarn. And this will be hopefully the fern and feather. So with the exception of a few of my purchases, anything I have has got a project assigned to it. With the exception of one jumper's worth that I got. But everything else has a purpose. And that is the purpose of that one. So that was the very first vendor that I hit up on Sunday. Then moved on to the one of the ones that I really wanted to see and purchase from, because I have knit with the yarn. I had knit my Rhinebeck hat with this yarn, and I have some more in stash that Selma had brought me to EYF, and that is the Horace Full Designs. And again, I just loved this booth. Apparently on Saturday it was really, really busy. It was busy when I got there, but it was manageable busy, and I had time to browse and look around. This doesn't have a purpose yet, but it will. All these sweaters will go towards the garments galore cal that Selma and I are doing, so I needed lots of projects. And I have a sweater's worth. I'm not sure what to do with it yet. And it's their flywheel range, which is sport weight, and it's what I used to knit my hat with. So I've got, the base will be Stonewall, which is this. It's a grey with flecks of blue and russet through it. They're just lovely little flecks that I think are going to really come out when it's been knit. That will be the base, and through it somewhere, whatever pattern I decide to use, will be these 3 colours. This again is my go-to green, and it is Mallard. This is the colour I used in my hat, East View, and Driftwood. So I'm not sure what that will be. If you have any ideas for a nice sport weight colour work sweater, feel free to pass your suggestions on. That is, as I say, the only sweater's worth I got that didn't have an allotted project. But I'm really looking forward to using that. The stall was lovely. They sell Peace Fleece, and they had some Brooklyn tweed, which it was a beautiful booth, and the folks manning the booth were so friendly, and we chatted for a little while and chatted about the hat that I'd knit, and it was just very relaxed, and that was the lovely thing. I don't think it would have been quite as relaxed if I'd gone to their booth on the Saturday. But that was the feel of Sunday. You could stop and talk to people. You could stop and talk to the vendors, and talk about their yarn, which made it very special. So that was the second one that I had purchased. The other sweater's worth that I got was from Miss Babs. As I said, the queue on the Saturday was really, really long. I mean, it went out and round the building, and maybe went round the building again. I don't know. It was incredibly long, and it wasn't a particularly big booth to work your way through. But on the Sunday, the queues were down, and there was still plenty of yarn. There was no shortage, so I got this. Again, it's worsted weight. I was on a real worsted weight kick. This is her Yowza. And the meterage in this is huge. It's 560 yards, which is 512 metres. And it's superwash merino. And it's a lovely shade of blue. Grey blue. And I've got a little bag with Miss Babs on it. This, I think, will be Marcia Fairy Little's sweater, and I've forgotten the name of it. I will put it along the bottom. Marcia was wearing, it's her new sweater pattern, and it is beautiful. It's a unisex sweater, so you can knit it for a man if you want, or for yourself, for a woman. I'm knitting mine for me, and I think that's what I'm going to use this for. I think it'll work out really well. Marcia was wearing hers and it was lovely. So that's what that's going to be for. So I have plenty of sweaters worth of yarn that I bought at Rhinebeck. I enjoyed seeing those stalls. The only other yarn I think I bought at Rhinebeck was one single skein. The O wool booth was so tempting. The colours, they're beautiful, muted, soft colours, and I really was having difficulty picking, and I'm very reluctant to buy a single skein if it can't be for socks, but I'm going to use this for a hat. It's 100% merino, so I can't use it for socks. I think it's 100%, yeah, 100% merino. But the colour of this was just too tempting. And I think I'm actually going to knit a hat with this. The colourway is Brook Trout. And that was all my yarny purchases at Rhinebeck. In the cabin we had exchanged a few gifts, and I got minis. I think these were from Sarah, the Canadian knitter. And I got these from Jess, Sarah Nova Crafts. And I got other minis. So I have plenty of minis to put into my corner to corner crochet blanket, which I still haven't shown you. But that's for those. And then later in the week I actually got minis as well from Selma. So I have plenty of yarn from Rhinebeck. We left, Holly and I then say we pottered around. We finished with another delicacy from Rhinebeck, and that was the cannolis, and they were lovely. We sat and had those with some coffee before we decided to leave. And it just was a very relaxed day and wonderful, and it was really hard to say goodbye to Rhinebeck. We travelled back to the cabin that night. We had said our goodbyes to Sarah and Marcia and Jen and Jessica, and the rest of the group. We all met up again at the cabin. So there was Sue and Lynn and Elizabeth and Selma and Holly and myself, and we went to Woodstock. It's their tradition to go to Woodstock to a restaurant called Joshua's for dinner on the Sunday night. And like everybody else, I've heard of Woodstock from the 1960s, and it was just an amazing town. It was just so unusual. It reminded me in architecture of Stars Hollow from the Gilmore Girls. Beautiful old architecture, lovely, lovely buildings. With the exception, everything was covered in murals and peace signs and rainbows, and it just was so, there was such an alternative vibe to Woodstock, and you just couldn't help but get caught up in it. And we pottered around some of the shops, and then moved up into the town, I call it the town square, and there was a drum circle there, and they were drumming. Apparently they meet up every night. If you want, you bring your drum, you sit down, join the group and drum, and lots of free-spirited people were getting up and dancing, getting into the rhythm, and you couldn't help but kind of move and dance at the side. It was a really, really different, unusual and really special atmosphere. It was lovely. That was the Rhinebeck weekend. It was phenomenal. I loved every minute of it. I was on a high the entire time I was there, and I had been warned before I left that this was to be a one-off, not to think that I was going to be doing this every year. I can't necessarily promise that. I have a very strong feeling that I will be back. It was amazing. I loved it. Thank you to everybody who made it possible and for just making it so special. But I was fortunate. When I had initially planned to go to Rhinebeck and thought about going to Rhinebeck, I thought it was going to be fly over just before it and fly home practically the day after it. And I'm so glad I didn't do that, because I think it would have been I wouldn't have had time to process before I got home and back to reality. And I was so fortunate that my trip was extended and that Selma was graciously keeping me for another few days. So on the Monday morning, we'd stayed over until Monday, and we took the journey back to Ottawa throughout the Monday. And I think it's about a 6.5, just over a 7-hour road trip anyway. Either road that you can travel down, we travelled back a different road than the road we had come. But again, I don't know what we'd have done without Holly. Holly stopped at every hole in the hedge that had a view, so that we could take photographs and footage and just really drink in the scenery that we were seeing. It was amazing. It was stunning. It was just vast amounts of reds and yellows, and I don't think I've ever seen so many pumpkins as I've seen over the last 10 days. We do pumpkins here, but small scale. Pumpkin patches, pumpkin stands. It was beautiful. And we'd left Phoenicia, I think it was about 8 o'clock, half past 8 in the morning, and we got back to Ottawa at 5. So there were a lot of stops on the way home, but it really was worth it. Selma and I got in very content and very happy to the house, but we were really tired, and Selma had to work the rest of the week, so it was early nights. We didn't actually do very much knitting together, which is shameful and scandalous, but it's just the way it was. We were too busy chatting. So that was the end of Rhinebeck, and the rest of my week was spent again pottering quietly around Ottawa. Holly on the Tuesday called me. I woke up on Tuesday morning with that kind of anticlimax feeling after a big event. Everything stopped. I had nothing planned. Everybody was out to work, and I was, what am I going to do today? Do I feel like going into the middle of Ottawa again? I wasn't sure what to do. And I got this message from Holly saying, are you free? I'm going to pick you up after 11. I've got a surprise for you. And when we had been travelling up on the Monday, we'd been discussing my trip and my perceptions of the trip, and that included my perceptions of the Canadian element of the trip. And like every country has stereotypes and stereotypical things that people associate with the country. My stereotype of Canada basically was maple syrup and the Mounties. And I had experienced lots of maple-y things already between Canada and the States. So Holly had quietly taken note of all this, and on the Tuesday morning she said, I tried to get you a Mountie uniform in his ceremonial uniform, but that's not possible. Disappointing, but we live with it. Didn't get my Mountie uniform, so she did what she considered to be the next best thing, and to me I think it actually was even better than getting the Mountie uniform. She brought me to the museum of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police musical tour, but the highlight of that event for me was seeing them training. We happened to get there just at the right time, and the horses and riders were in the arena training. So that was a really kind and thoughtful and special thing for Holly to have done for me, to give me that feel of Canadian culture. And she brought me out for lunch, and I had proper Vietnamese pho, which was beautiful. And then we hit a yarn store, because obviously I hadn't had enough yarn over the weekend, and the yarn store we hit up on Tuesday was Wabi-Sabi, which is in Ottawa, and I had a lovely time there. And I'm going to try and find the yarn that I bought there. I wanted some Canadian yarn. I couldn't come all the way to Canada and not get some Canadian yarn, and I found this, and this will probably be socks. It might not be, it might be used with another colour, and it's the Georgian Bay Fibre Company. It is their Bayfield sock. It's 80/20 BFL and nylon superwash BFL, and the colourway is oak leaf. And it may be socks, a patterned sock at some point, or as I said, I might use it, keep it and use it with, and team it up with some other colours for a shawl. But that was really pretty, and it was lovely to meet Donna and I think it's Emily. I hope I've got that right. in the shop, and had a chat with them. They had also been to Rhinebeck, so it was nice sharing some experiences. And I need to look in this bag because Donna very kindly a few days later messaged me. I had asked her about yarn that she dyes. She is Roots and Rains. You'll see her on Instagram as Roots and Rain Yarns, and she naturally dyes yarn, but she had none in the shop. I know they were having a show, a trunk show at the weekend for Brooklyn Tweed, and whether that was because then they'd moved stock, so she had none of her own yarn in there. And she messaged me a couple of days later and said, I'm going to drop something off at the house for you. And sure enough she did, and she gave me this, gifted me this, and isn't it just beautiful? This will be a hat. This will definitely be a hat. This is her Monsoon Sock, 100% Canadian. It's superwash merino nylon, and it's logwood and madder dye, and it's just this beautiful dusky pink. And the hat that I will knit from Wool, the Wool yarn, and the hat that I will knit with this are going to be topped with one of these. Holly makes these pom-poms from coats, recycled coats. And this will be the pom-pom, and I just think the colours are going to work really, really well together. So thank you so much, Donna. This is beautiful, beautiful yarn. I think she said this is the first of her yarn to cross the Atlantic. I hope it's not the last of her yarn to cross the Atlantic. It is beautiful. The colours and the shades that she dyes are beautiful, and it's all natural dye. They're just soft and very, very pretty. So look out, Roots and Rain yarn. So I got that from Donna from Wabi-Sabi. And it was a beautiful store. It was lovely. There's lots of equipment. There's lots of spinning equipment and yarn and fibre, and it was really, really lovely. And the other thing I actually got in there was the new making, the lines number 4, and I haven't really had very much opportunity to browse it. Making's beautiful because it's not just knitwear. There are a lot of other projects, and I think a lot of people are quite taken with this, but I'm thinking I might make the kimono jacket and sew that up. The following day was potentially another quiet day. I'd gone into the Rideau Centre just to do the last bit of souvenir shopping, but I had a very special meetup on the Wednesday. All my meetups were special. This one was special. I have for a very long time followed and watched Nicole, who is the Gentle Knitter, and Nicole is based in Ottawa as well. And I had met her on Saturday at Rhinebeck and had a bit of a chat with her, and we had said that if we could possibly work it, we would meet up in Ottawa. And sure enough, she very kindly came out of work at lunchtime on the Wednesday, and we met up and had lunch. We had poutine. It was that was one of the funny things. I had wanted to try. I like to try the local foods when I'm somewhere. I enjoy that. I enjoyed the beaver tail, and the other one I'd been told about was poutine, and this sounded so exotic. And we got, Nicole and I, sure enough, she said, right, we'll get poutine then. We got poutine, and it was lovely. I really enjoyed it. But here in this part of the world, it's just called gravy chip, and that's what it was. Chips, fries, with gravy and some cheese curds, vegetarian cheesy curds through it. It was really tasty, but it was just so funny. I had this image built up of this very exotic dish, and it was gravy chip. But I had a lovely hour talking to Nicole. I really wish we had had more time together. She is everything her name suggests. Her knitwear is beautiful, and she just is a very inspiring lady, and I really, really enjoyed my time with you, Nicole. Thank you so much for meeting up with me. One of the highlights. Thursday was a quiet day for me during the day. I had to start thinking about packing and panicking because, as you've seen, there's quite a bit of stash, and I knew it wasn't all going to fit in the bag going home, so I had to start considering what I was going to do with that. And as it turned out, I'd carried a smaller bag in my luggage so that I could use it for the Rhinebeck weekend, and it got filled, and I had to kind of confess to my husband, and I confessed it when I was in Canada because I knew his arm couldn't reach that far to strangle me, but I had to pay for extra baggage coming home, and I knew it would have cooled down by the time I got home. So I filled a second bag. So Thursday was spent doing that, getting packed up. I pottered down the street, went to David's Tea for the last time, and did fun things like that. But then on the Thursday evening, Holly came and picked Selma and I up, and she came and picked us up carrying the most enormous coconut cream pie that she had made from scratch. We'd had some earlier in the week, and it's my favourite pie. We make it here, but we use the Jello packs that I get through Amazon. Holly made hers from scratch, and it was very tasty. I think I've put on whatever amount of weight, and I'm going to have to be very careful now. I'm very good for the next few weeks, but it was worth it. Aside, I'm rambling. Holly picked us up and we went to Wool Time, another wool shop in the Ottawa area. And I had fully intended that I would buy more skein of Canadian yarn. And I picked up this one, which is Fleece Artist, and it's her cottage sock, and I love the colours. They were very soft colours. There will definitely be socks in this. The colourway is ivory, but there are blush pinks and blues and greys and fawn in there. And this was to be it, the Fleece Artist. I had hoped, and I knew it was unlikely, that they would have still have some of the National Parks selection of Fleece Artists. I think they're all sold out. I would have really loved the Ontario 1000 Islands because we drove through the 1000 Islands area. But I was very happy just to get this ivory. So I came out of Wool Time with this. I came out of Wool Time with, very simple, but I love this sock yarn. I have got this sock yarn in the States before. I have one pair of socks knit in it, and I still have some to knit. I came out with this Patton's Croy sock. This is just really good workhorse sock yarn. But if I'd left it at that, it would have been okay, but I didn't. Selma very kindly gifted me another Fleece Artist, and it is the Hercules colourway. I think those are going to make amazing socks, and they're going to be my Canada socks. There's usually a few knit-alongs in the summer. Some of the Canadian podcasters host Canadian knit-alongs, and I'm going to keep this for that and knit some socks. I love the colours. So Selma gifted me that. But she also drew my attention to the Cascade 220. And the other sweater I'd had on my list that I hadn't actually purchased for was the Sambuca by Thea Coleman. I'd kind of thought the Harrisville would be for that, but I'd bought sport weight instead of worsted. So I bought the colours for my Sambuca. Now, Cascade 220 isn't an particularly expensive yarn, and it worked out with the exchange rate, etc., about £1 sterling cheaper by buying it in Canada per skein. So I saved a little bit. So this is the base of They're the main colour of the sweater. Surprise, surprise. Theirs is called 2441. I don't think it has a name. It's 2441. Again, it's an oatmeal colour. And that will be the main part. The colour work on the Sambuca is at the bottom, and there were 3 colours required. So these are my 3 colours. It's colourway 2429 and 2452 and 9460, and I'll link again all these in the show notes. So they're all shades of green. So I came out with that. So I think I have enough yarn to do me for quite a while. It was a beautiful shop. There was a really good range of yarns. There were the local indie dyes, and then there were the big box store brands as well, and it was just fun to walk around that. And we went out for dinner after that. So that finished off the Thursday really, really nicely. And on Friday was home day, but it was a really jam-packed day and a really fun day. I got a different bus route, so I've been very brave, and I got 2 buses on Friday and went across the river into Gatineau in Quebec to Selma's workplace, and I met with Selma and Sue and Lynn and Crystal, who I hadn't got to meet. Crystal usually goes to Rhinebeck and couldn't this year, and I met with Crystal and we had lunch together in a beautiful Moroccan restaurant. It was lovely, and I had lunch there, and I got another skein of yarn. Crystal gifted me a beautiful skein of Canadian yarn, and it's a Tanis Fibre Arts, and it's punky, the punky colourway, and it's really pretty, and it is merino and cashmere and silk, and it just feels so soft. So it's beautiful. So thank you very much, Crystal, for that. And some David's tea. So I spent lunchtime with the girls and had to say my goodbyes to Sue and Lynn. Sue and Lynn of the Two Tangled Skeins, I think they're one of the first, if not the first podcast I ever watched. So it was quite surreal meeting them, and it was really exciting to meet them. And just by the way, girls, in case you hadn't already realised, I'm Irish. The entire 10 days I was away, people had a habit of stating the obvious. You're Irish. And I thought, I wonder what gave that away. But it was fun. Became a standing joke. So I had to say my goodbyes to Sue and Lynn. It was lovely, lovely to meet you, and I'll see you next year. And then I got picked up outside Selma's work by Amy of the Jasper Patch. Amy came in specifically to meet me, and it was lovely. She lives, I think, outside Gatineau. You may know her from Instagram, the Jasper Patch. She has the most beautiful photography of wildlife. She lives near a lake in what appears to us in a quite remote area, and she's an English lady who is now living there, and it was just so much fun meeting Amy. Amy, you are a hoot. I had a great time with her and Holly. Holly came in as well, and we had a lovely afternoon together. We went to a lovely little Italian coffee bar and spent the afternoon together, and that was really it was just so much fun. And Amy, consider doing your podcast again. It would be brilliant. I would love to see you in your podcast again. We had a great time. Got back to Selma's, said my goodbyes to Holly, and finished my packing. And then just before we went to the airport, I had lovely Suzy Q donuts. So my trip was all about food and yarn. It was great. And that Alejandro, Selma's husband, very kindly got me. He said it was the one food source out of Ottawa that I hadn't got to taste, so he brought me home a selection to try. I had a lovely time with Selma and her family. They were so kind and accommodating. They let me stay in their home, and I cannot thank you enough for that. that was my Rhinebeck trip. I'm sorry that it was such a long discussion today, or long account. There's no way I could have shortened it in any way. It was just phenomenal. Thank you so much. My flights home were safe and sound, and I didn't sleep. I knit, and I got picked up the following day by my husband and my son, and it was just lovely to see them again. And this week's just been about recuperating. Thank you to everybody again for all your kindness on my trip and for making it what it was. It was truly special. I really do hope I'll get back next year. I'm working on it, and just thank you. That's it. I hope to be back for a normal episode very, very soon to show you the knitting that I did when I was away and any other knitting that I've been working on. Thank you for sticking with me for that mammoth episode, and I will see you very soon.